we'll find out what are the BGP confederations, how do confederations work, and how to configure the confederations. So why do we have confederations? Like route reflectors, the confederations is a BGP, IBGP scaling method, and it is used in cases where there are a lot of IBGP peerings required. Confederations are configured as a combination of IBGP and EBGP, and confederations are introducing new stuff. And this new stuff is called sub-IS numbers, which are generally private IS numbers that are included in a public IS. I will show you what this means. Basically, we'll have an AS300, for example, and AS300 is logically divided into multiple private IS numbers. So we can group several routers in AS65001 and so on. Inside this sub-IS, the routers will run IBGP, and for the intra sub-IS communication, EBGP will be used. So basically, all the routes which are learned in this IS will be shared between other sub-IS numbers. The EBGP connection is also called CBGP. And when configuring confederations, you usually use loopback interfaces for EBGP and for IBGP. What is new in confederations? That will have a special IS attribute which will include sub-IS numbers. You will see that in the lab. These special sub-IS numbers are usually listed in IS path, and they are represented with parentheses. And these sub-IS numbers are also used for the loop detection and avoidance mechanism. Also, usually we have a external connectivity from the S300. For example, it can be on router 11 or on router 7. And usually this is a EBGP connection with another public IS number. And when the routes are exiting this IS300 autonomous system, all information about the confederations will be removed. So sub-IS numbers are only relevant to the confederation configuration, or in other words, it is relevant only for IS300, and the external BGP connections to other public IS numbers cannot see the private IS numbers. Also, the private IS numbers are not routable on the internet. The configuration is also pretty straightforward. You configure your autonomous system. You will configure the configuration statement under the routing options, and you will list the public IS number and sub-IS numbers which are part of this public IS number. And after that, you just configure your BGP as usual. So basically, we can have a regular BGP configuration, or we can have a route reflector configuration. We can mix all of these technologies together. And the second part, which is relevant to the confederations, is the border gateway device, or basically the BGP router, which will establish eBGP connections intra sub IS. Also, as I mentioned, you usually configure all the BGP peerings using the loopback address, and the eBGP have the next hop of 1. So basically, when R11 will try to establish a eBGP peering with the loopback interface, it will have to travel 2 hops till the loopback interface. The first hop is the physical interface, and the next hop is the loopback interface. So we'll have to configure multi-hop if we choose to go with loopback implementation of eBGP. So basically, this is the theory, and let's jump to the lab. Thanks. So on a quick side note, like I said, you can find the video series links in the description, and you can watch these videos chronologically. You can also hire me on Fiverr. I offer consulting and design services, troubleshooting and whatnot. And if you want to follow along with my Udemy courses, you will also find the discount codes in the description. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.